Do you have enough money to afford to have a work comp case? In this video, you'll learn about what costs you might expect to pay in your Florida workers' compensation case. How's it going? Domenic Celeste, virtual accident attorney here, and I'm back with another video. For those that don't know, I represent people injured on the job on workers' compensation and due to the fault of another in personal injury all throughout Florida. Now, as usual, before we get started, I have to show you this disclaimer, so just hold tight. And with that out of the way, let's get into the video. According to Florida Statute 440.015, the legislative intent of Florida workers' compensation law is to assure the quick, prompt, and efficient delivery of disability and medical benefits to the injured worker, to facilitate the worker's return to gainful employment through a self-executing system that isn't an economic or administrative burden to either party. Basically, when you get hurt at work, your lost wage and medical benefits should be provided almost automatically by work comp without it costing too much for anyone, especially you. So why am I bringing this up in a video about case costs? Because if everything that I just said were true, then this video wouldn't exist. You shouldn't have to spend any money, but you do. And how much you have to spend is determined by work comp's choices in delaying or denying your benefits. So let's go through what sort of costs you may have to spend from start of your case to the end. Unlike in a civil or personal injury case where you have to pay to both file a lawsuit as well as serve that lawsuit on the defendant, you do not have to pay any money to start a workers' compensation case. Now technically, if you file a claim with the court, which is called a petition for benefits or PFB, it has to be sent certified to your employer, which costs about $10. But if you don't have an attorney, no one really cares, so you most likely won't have to do this. Alright, say you've now started a work comp case and everything's going fine. This stage of the case is called pre-litigation, which is where you're not preparing to go to court, and the money you spend during this stage is called pre-litigation costs. If you're representing yourself, you shouldn't really have to spend any money until and unless your case or some benefit is denied by work comp, but more on that later. Some costs that you may see during this time include paying for copies, postage, or medical records, but also could include gas, medication, or copays. Costs for copies are cheap at 25 cents per page, but it could add up depending on how many pages of documents are needed in your case. I'm completely electronic, so I don't really have any costs for copies except for the occasional printout here and there. Even though postage doesn't cost that much, if you're representing yourself, the way you serve the court and parties is by sending mail, and that can add up. However, if you have an attorney, we're able to electronically serve documents through the court's online portal, which is free. Medical records also aren't cheap because not only do you have to pay per page, but there's also a fee to get the records. And if you're getting hospital records, that can cost over $100 or more. However, if you're the one requesting the records, the doctors may not charge you. Driving to your doctors can cost a lot in gas, but did you know you can be reimbursed for this? If you decide to drive yourself to your doctor, work comp has to reimburse you 44.5 cents per mile, but only if submitted on proper mileage form. Or, if you don't want to drive or can't drive, you can choose to have work comp provide you with medical transportation, which costs them a lot more per mile than 44.5 cents. This is why I usually recommend my clients choose this option to rack up the work comp bills. If you get prescribed medications and take them to a pharmacy, sometimes you're told that work comp hasn't approved them yet, so you can't get them unless you pay out of pocket. And these meds can range anywhere from $5 to $100 or more. And if you really need those meds, you're probably going to take a hit and just pay for them yourself. But you don't and shouldn't ever have to do that. Did you know that the only medical care that you can choose for yourself in a Florida work comp case is your own pharmacy? And because of that, the pharmacy that I recommend my clients to use not only provides you with medication prescribed by your work comp doctor, whether work comp pays or not, but it also sends the meds right to your front door, sometimes overnight too, no matter where you are in the country. If you're interested in learning more about this pharmacy for your work comp case, even if you're not in Florida, feel free to text me at 561-935-3822. Lastly, if you're released the maximum medical improvement or MMI, which means that the doctor thinks that there's no more treatment that'll make you any better, then you have to pay a $10 copay every time that you see that doctor again. And some people just pay it, whereas I always request a one-time change in doctor at that point, or even hire a medical expert. But now we're getting into litigation costs, so let's move on to that. Okay, now let's get into the real costs in a case, which occurs when something goes wrong, like a denial of lost wages, medical care, or even the entire case. And when this happens, you're in litigation, which is preparing to go to court, so these are called litigation costs. Most work comp denials relate to medicals, as that's what drives work comp cases. Thus, if your authorized doctor is not on your side, you only have one option if you want anything else from your work comp case or to increase the value of your case for settlement purposes. You need to hire an expert doctor called an independent medical examiner or IME. This is usually the biggest litigation cost in a work comp case, ranging anywhere from $1,000 to a few $1,000s just for the examination and report. Some IMEs also charge a few hundred additional dollars just for a record review too. Then, in order for the IME's opinion to come into evidence, you'll need to take the IME's deposition, which costs $200 per hour by statute for experts, and also pay for a court reporter and the transcript, which adds an additional $500 or more in costs. All said and done, you could be looking at paying $2,000 or more for an IME. You may also have to hire other experts too, depending on your case. For example, if you're claiming that you're permanently and totally disabled or PTD, then you probably need to pay about $3,000 or so for a functional capacity exam or FCE, and another $2,000 or so for a vocational expert. Oh, and you'll need their depositions and transcripts too. And if you want to talk to any of these experts before their depo, that'll cost a couple $100. Other depositions that you may have to take include authorized doctors, the work comp adjuster, employer representatives, witnesses, records custodians, and the list goes on depending on your case. For each depo, you might as well just add another $700. Now those are the big costs, but what other litigation costs might there be? I always order a complete copy of all the medical records again, just to make sure that I have everything. Again, this could be over $100 for each doctor, depending on how many records there are. If you have witnesses, you may have to serve them with subpoenas to testify in court, which costs about $80 per service or more. It's probably a good idea to have physical copies of certain things in court as well to show witnesses, so there's a cost of 25 cents per copy here too. Now if you lose in court, the biggest cost to you would be paying the work comp attorney's costs, which can be hundreds to thousands of dollars. And this is one of the major risks in going to court in a Florida work comp case. Now if you settle, there may be some additional smaller costs for things like checks, postage, and envelopes, which are only a few bucks. But if you settle at a private mediation, you may have to pay a portion of the mediator's fee, which could be a couple $100 to a couple $1,000 or more. Other random costs include notarizations at $10 per stamp, translator fees if a witness doesn't speak English for about $120 an hour, plane tickets or hotels depending on where court is in relation to where you're living, and anything else that might need to be spent depending on your case. However, you don't and shouldn't ever have to pay for anything relating to your work comp case. Firstly, work comp has to pay for all your medical care, so don't ever come out of pocket for that. Secondly, you need to hire an attorney, because if you do, all the costs I just told you about will be paid by the attorney, not you. You don't even have to pay us out of pocket for our fees either. So there's literally no reason not to hire an attorney. So in summary, how much in costs that you may have to spend on your case depends on whether it's going fine or not. There's no cost to open a case, but there are various costs throughout the case in both the pre-litigation and litigation stages. Examples of all these costs include, but are not limited to, copies, postage, medical records, gas, medications, copays, expert fees, court reporter fees, transcripts, expert conferences, subpoena services, work comp attorney costs, checks, envelopes, mediator fees, notarizations, translator fees, plane tickets, hotels, and anything else that may be needed for your case. However, remember that it's work comp's responsibility to pay for your medical care, and that if you hire an attorney, they'll front all the costs on your case. And there you have it. Now you know what sort of costs you might expect to pay in your Florida workers' compensation case. If you or someone you know were injured on the job or due to the fault of another, you need to hire an attorney. Give me a call any time of the day or night. I have a 24/7, 365 receptionist, or better yet, you can just text me, 561-935-3822. But that's it for this video. If you got value out of it, or if you learned something, please hit that like and subscribe button. To learn more, watch my previous video here, or watch the video that I've chosen for you here. Again, I'm Domenic Celeste, virtual accident attorney. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.